Hi, my name's Liv Tyler, and welcome to my solo gallery show, Transformations. Transformations is my second solo gallery show in the East Village in New York City. It is a body of 20 new works that I've developed over the past year, exploring how I've gone through a lot of transformation within my personal life, as well as how painting can be used as a way to translate and transform negative emotions into good. With everything going on in the world, I want to be a positive beacon of light and a reminder of what we can do within ourselves and within our own world to make things better. The first painting of this collection is called In the Quiet Moments. It is a painting reflecting on the breath and how I feel when I'm meditating, when I'm sitting and imagining my inner landscape and kind of this cool, calm breath kind of coming in to kind of lighten everything and kind of bring in a new perspective. So it's called In the Quiet Moments. The appendage to that name was going to be The Breath Will Come, and just kind of, it's an embodiment of meditation. Interestingly though, a lot of people when they looked at this piece have told me it looks like the Northern Lights, so I think it is a really cool parallel between the two. This piece is a really special piece. It is called Torrent. It is one of my largest pieces I've made in the past few years. It is a commission, it was a custom work, and it is genuinely one of my favorite paintings I've made in the past few years. It is such a powerful piece. It's a combination of some of my best pieces, including Storm and Double Rainbow and some other works as well. And I really felt like I was connecting back with those pieces. I created Storm 5 years ago, and it was this piece of such intensity and despair and pain and not knowing where I was headed, but knowing I would get through it. And this piece is kind of a response to it, where I am reflecting on how far I've come since Storm and kind of the triumph I feel and how you can get through even your darkest moments, and kind of having the opportunity and the trust to create something like this has just opened me up so much. Getting to work on such a large piece, you get to move your entire body when working on the pieces, which is different to a smaller piece. And it's just such a special piece. It took me 8 months to make. I was listening to the Interstellar soundtrack the entire time, and it was just a really meditative, powerful process. And it took me so many sessions, 20 to 30 layers. It was just so much carving away and revising and fixing. Some of my favorite elements of this piece is this yellow strip. A lot of people say it reminds them of fire, just kind of burning through the piece. This really deep purple is a signature in a lot of my works. It's actually purple, not black, but it looks so dark, it's almost black. Another big part of this piece was kind of having these two worlds, almost kind of looking through and seeing the light kind of coming through. And then another part was when I had initially started, I had this sky part kind of coming down, and this wasn't red. So you can see where I revised it and kind of went over, and you can see some of the color come through from those previous layers, which I think is just really fun. Such an incredible process. I'm so proud of this piece, and it has such a special meaning to me, and I'm just so deeply honored to have had the opportunity to make it and show it. And the entire process is on my YouTube as well if you want to see the process of making it. But definitely one of my favorite pieces. It has been the conversation piece of this show. Everyone that's come in has just talked about how they want to see me keep working large. I feel like my work is meant to be large, and this is my stepping stone to doing that, and I'm really excited to develop more large pieces. This next piece is called Burning. I'm gonna be so honest, I really struggled with this piece. This is actually one of the last pieces I made for this show, or the last one I completed. I wanted to play with this fluorescent pink, which is something I used to do in some of my works but hadn't in a while. And I wanted to do this really bright piece, but what I was struggling with was the lack of contrast in the piece. And I was really close to just cutting it and painting over it, and I was trying everything and doing different brush lines than what I typically do, and doing stars. And then one day we were doing a painting session, and I was putting it up on the easel, and I put it on upside down, and I was like, oh, that's it. So it's flipped, which really flips the gravity of the drips because they're going the opposite direction. And then I did some more work on it to kind of unify it, but it's a really captivating and really bright piece. And the meaning behind it is just burning. It's passion. It's something consuming your entire soul. And to me, that's a big connection to my career and my painting and just in general, the work I do. And other people have said it reminds them of hunger, or it makes them hungry, which is interesting. This piece is called This Light of Mine. It is a really special piece. It is inspired by this, not necessarily lullaby, but it's inspired by the song that goes, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." That was such a big song of my childhood. It was something my nanny would sing to me, and it's just something that's so imprinted in my brain from my childhood. And to me, that song has kind of carried itself through into my adult life. It's a song that I've sung to myself to get me through some of my darkest times. And it's just something I always keep with me of like, never let your light dim and always let it shine. So this piece is a representation of that, kind of the darker blues of just the sadder feelings and kind of coming through to the light. Then this piece is called Agony. It's a really different vibe. I was making this when I was just reflecting on the state of the world and how I was feeling about the world and just like all the despair and absolutely awful things that are happening in today's world, and feeling really distraught and terrible about them. And it's definitely one of the darker, sadder pieces of my show because it doesn't really have a positive tone to it. Like, how are you supposed to be positive about that? But a lot of my work is feeling those feelings, but also like, what do we do? You know, and how do we get through this? And what can we do as like a people to improve and to do better? So it's called Agony. It's pain and despair of the world, but also hope and light and how good will always come through. Okay, so these are kind of more fun experimentations that'll make sense after I show you another piece a little bit more. But I created the main piece of this show, which is called Sunshine, and this was the really swoopy piece that was a lot more open than a lot of my other pieces, and I really liked the kind of open movement I had. So I went to these canvas to kind of explore some of those color palettes and movements a bit more. Something I've actually really been trying to focus on within my work lately is sitting with a color palette for more than one piece. For the most part, I feel an emotion, I make the painting, and then I don't really explore that color palette directly again. It can come up when I experience something similar again. I don't necessarily sit with one emotion or one color palette, and that's something I've been trying to do a little bit more lately. So these are kind of a unified group of pieces. Someone actually told me that it reminded them of the seasons: spring, summer, winter, fall. So they're really just like playing with different brush techniques, a lot of tight swoops, and then a lot of fan brush detail over top with kind of a similar color or slightly brighter or darker color to kind of bring out some contrast. This piece went through a lot of different phases, so you can see some of the blue kind of peeking through, which connects back to Sunshine, which you will see in a moment. But this one is called Comfort, and it's meant to symbolize kind of those childhood innocent comforts as a kid. This one is called Sorrento because it reminds me of lemon trees in Sorrento. This one is Jade because it reminds me of a jade stone. And this is called Warmth, which connects back to Sunshine. This piece is called Twilight Flurries. It is a piece I created after 2 weeks spent in the woods for the winter. Every time I don't paint for a couple weeks, I always get really inspired, and it's like something's charging up within me, and whenever I come back and get to an easel, it's always such a fun experience. So this is Twilight Flurries. I made it after being at the cabin, and there was so much snow on the ground. It snowed almost every single day, and there was a full moon, and it was so bright and there was so much snow that you could see at like 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And that was just so beautiful, getting to see the world glow blue almost, and being able to see across the river, see landscape you don't normally get to see at night. And it feels like you're getting let in on a little secret. And we're surrounded by woods. And so I was trying to kind of portray the forest kind of coming down, and then the snow and the grass and just kind of all of the glow that the snow creates. And then the flecks are snow and stars. And I was also told that this reminds a lot of people of the Northern Lights as well, which is really special. I really love this piece, and it reminds me of home and just has such like a warm feeling to it, even though it's a painting about the winter. This painting is called Rooted. It is a piece that I created after having lived in the city like permanently for 6 or 7 months. I was reflecting on how I felt in the city and how I felt really excited and grounded and rooted here. And to me, like, rooted kind of connects back to nature. So when I was thinking of how I felt grounded, it connected back to trees and the roots of trees and kind of how you feel embedded in the earth below you, and just kind of how that was how I felt in the city, which is a little ironic since it's a city and there's not much trees. But I also hadn't worked with brown before in my pieces, which I had realized this summer. And so I did a lot of studies working with brown and kind of seeing how that unifies in my color language within my pieces. So it was a really fun way to explore this new color palette and explore a new emotion. Rooted kind of connects back to this painting as well. This is called Searching for Home. This was made in the spring, right before I moved into my first apartment. Talking about transformations and big life changes I went through this year, I moved into my first ever apartment. And this was created when I was apartment hunting. And you can kind of feel the questioning and the uncertainty I was looking at so many places. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted. I wasn't sure exactly where I was ending up. And I was reflecting a lot about home and what home meant and felt to me and what I wanted my home to feel like, my next home. I was also reflecting on how home isn't necessarily a place. It's a feeling within you. It's your friends, it's your family, and how I'll always have a home in some place, even if it's not a physical base. And I also was envisioning how I wanted that space to feel and how I wanted to feel in my new space, kind of like almost a cocoon of creativity and kind of being protected from the outside world. And it's a really unique blend of colors that I hadn't really brought together before, and I'm really proud of this piece. Next, we have Rolling Waves, which is a painting kind of connecting back to the theory of twilight flurries, where after being on vacation or away from my easel for a bit, I always come back and have so many ideas. So this was made after visiting my brother. We went to Newport, Rhode Island, and we were on the beach, and you had like the rolling waves and the clear crystal turquoise waters and the sand, and it was just so beautiful, and it inspired me so much, and it's just such a tranquil feeling, and I think the ocean is just so powerful, which I think is so beautiful, and I really loved capturing this. I think it so perfectly captures waves and the power of the ocean. This is the cover piece for the show. It's called Sunshine. It's really what developed this entire series. Sunshine was a piece I made when I wasn't feeling too positive. I was feeling kind of negative about the world and what was happening, and I had arrived to my easel and I was like, I don't want to paint that. I don't want that to be my message. I didn't want to create something negative. I wanted to create something positive, and this emerged. And Sunshine is like this really bright piece that is encouraging you to be positive and reminding me of like the light and power and positivity I have. And it's radiating back to me my energy and how I want to show up in the world. And it's just a reminder of how positive energy and good and kindness and passion are the truest, happiest, best emotions, and how even when you're not feeling that, you can look to this piece for a little brightness of positivity. The next piece is called Expanding. It is a piece I created actually for my 22nd birthday. It's become a tradition now where every birthday I make a painting that kind of reflects on the past year and then kind of reflects on what I want the next year to look like in my life. So Expanding is reflecting on my 22nd birthday and how excited I felt for my future. It's a rainbow, you know, a blend of like so many different opportunities and so much that came together in the past year. 21, I moved into my first apartment, I graduated college, I took my businesses full time, and I was just feeling so excited and positive about my future. And Expanding is just like this representation of moving into so many new things. And I'm really excited and have been enjoying my 22nd year, and I'm really excited to see how this year unfolds, and this painting is just a reflection of all of that expansion and excitement. Next, we have Underneath the Surface. This piece was created a couple years ago, but it was created based on a pain flare-up I was having. I have chronic pain, however, it isn't really something as prominent in my life anymore. And so Underneath the Surface is this like lingering reminder that like even if you're not actively feeling it, and it's still there, kind of reminding you, and like even if you're not actively feeling it, it's always a presence within my mind or within my consciousness or within my body. And it's also a reminder because of that, because I have that insight, it's a reminder that everyone has something underneath the surface of their psyche, of themselves, that you don't know about. So it's a reminder of all of that is happening in other people's lives that you don't know. So it's a reminder to be kind and positive and treat others with kindness, because you never know what they're going through and what's lurking underneath the surface. Funfetti actually connects back to Expanding. It is a piece that I created around my birthday time, and I was just playing with the same colors and kind of wanting to see how they played together. And it's really just about birthdays as a kid, you know, like the really positive fun you had as a kid and feeling excitement and that like love and warmth and feeling excited for gifts and all of that. So it's just a really positive, fun party funfetti piece. The last two pieces of the show are Hesitation and Vigor. And I feel like I have to talk about them together because they were made at the same time. They were back and forth with each other. I was feeling two battling thoughts within myself. I had an amazing opportunity before me, and I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome and not like I was worth it and not like I could do well. But at the same time, I was feeling a lot of excitement and passion and knowing I was headed in the right direction. So it was kind of me fighting those two internal battles within myself. And I literally was working back and forth on them so that I was like kind of representing these two like warring thoughts within myself. And I always struggle sometimes with portraying the negative emotions, which I do so often in my pieces, but I never want them to be what I sit in. So for me, painting is a way to release them and then kind of leave them on the canvas, and that's kind of my letting go of those emotions. So that is my show, Transformations. Thank you so much for being with me as I talk about these beautiful pieces. I am so proud of this show. It is such an honor to get to show my work in New York City, and I'm so proud of myself and so grateful for the opportunity. And this is a dream come true for me, and I'm really grateful to get to share it with you all. There is a link in the description that has the catalog, prints, and the available paintings from this show if you want to check it out. And thank you so much for watching.